You're watching World Panorama, the only show that gives you news from across the globe in the most concise, direct and unbiased reports. Welcome to this week's edition with me, Sana Khan. Before we get you detailed reports, here's a look at the top stories this week. Aung San Suu Kyi makes history by taking Myanmar parliament seat. But how easy will the road to popular democracy be for Myanmar? Ceasefire fails to control clashes in Syria. UN says all 300 international observers will be there by the end of May. Hillary Clinton travels to China amid row over Chinese dissident Jen Guangcheng, urges China to protect human rights. And in soccer, Real Madrid clinched 32nd La Liga title as Cristiano Ronaldo rounds off 3-0 win against Athletic Bilbao. This week, we discuss politics in Myanmar and the way ahead for the nation. Myanmar's opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi was sworn in to Myanmar's military-backed parliament on Wednesday, taking public office for the first time since launching her struggle against authoritarian rule nearly a quarter-century ago. Her entry into the legislature heralds a new political era in Myanmar, cementing a risky détente between her party and the reformist government of the president, which inherited power from the army last year. Over the next few minutes, we are going to discuss the implications of this new era and what it means for the political setup. I welcome Mr. Bharat Bhushan, senior journalist, with me on the show, someone who knows Myanmar very closely. He was also there just before the elections. We'll be going to him in just a bit. Before that, have a look at this report.
Pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi took her place in Myanmar's parliament on May 2nd, ushering in a historic new political era after nearly a quarter-century fight against military dictatorship.
We would like our parliament to be in line with genuine democratic values. It's not because we want to remove anybody as such. We just want to make the kind of improvements that will make our National Assembly a truly democratic one.
Suu Kyi and members of the National League for Democracy party, who swept by-elections on April 1st, took their seats after backing down from a demand to change the wording of the oath that new members take. The party leader entered the chamber and sat down near the block reserved for serving military men, who have a quarter of the seats in parliament under the constitution. She later swore an oath officially entering into parliament's lower house.
I have a tremendous goodwill towards the military, so it doesn't in any way bother me to sit with them. I'm pleased to be sitting together with them.
Some of her political opponents too welcomed her arrival at last.
The fact that Suu Kyi has come to the parliament is good. If we want to achieve something for the benefit of the people and the country, we should let sleeping dogs lie.
Suu Kyi's entry into Myanmar's political system comes amid a year of sweeping reforms in the resource-rich but impoverished country. Suu Kyi agreed to stick to the original wording and swore to protect a constitution drafted under military direction that she says is undemocratic and needs to be amended to reduce the political role of the armed forces.
Let's get into the discussion straight away. Mr. Bhushan, for Myanmar, how big is this change going to be? What's your opinion?
It's a baby step forward. It's not going to be a major change because Suu Kyi's party, the National League for Democracy, after all, has only 6% of the total seats. And she boycotted the main election in 2010. This was a by-election where she contested 45 seats and won 44, a sweeping mandate for the by-election. But in a parliament that is dominated by the Union Solidarity and Development Party, which is the party of retired army officers, and 25% of the seats with the army, serving army officers, together they make 90% of both houses of parliament. So can she really change anything? I don't think so. But having said that, I think her voice will be far more significant than the number of seats she has because of her immense popularity within the country and the immense respect she enjoys internationally.
Right. So you're saying it's a baby step towards, the process of a democratic setup. But, you've been to Myanmar. Now, what do you see on the ground over there? What sort of an impact has her party made on the ground?
Well, people are excited. People are excited. Wherever she went, people turned out in big numbers, and all her candidates, but one, swept the election. So people are for democracy, people are for National League for Democracy, but she'll have to wait till the 2015 election, the next general election, where she might get a mandate to change the constitution and do the big things she wants to do. Meanwhile, she'll have to be satisfied by forming alliances, coalitions with existing opposition parties, which are really ethnic parties. and change some of the laws which even the government might want to change, some preventive detention laws, etc. Laws which they've inherited from the British and which continue. So small changes will be there. There might be some social sector reform. But on the big ticket items like keeping the military out of parliament, rewriting the constitution, I don't think this time around she'll be able to do that. She'll have to wait till 2015.
Right. Also, the present government has been praised in the recent time for, the reforms that it has made. But, Washington-based Watchdog has made a comment saying that, Burma, Myanmar, was still not free. So how do you see those reforms? And, the international community is watching the developments as well very closely. We had Hillary Clinton making a comment after Suu Kyi was sworn in as well. So from the international country's point of view, what are they really looking at?
But they were losing influence in Myanmar. Myanmar was going firmly into the lap of the Chinese. It had become a resource hinterland for China. China was building all the hydropower projects there. China was exploiting their oil and gas and setting up 2 pipelines to take the oil and gas to China. It's building their roads. It's invested in a big way. So this was an area where the US and the West was losing influence. Their sanctions were not really working. I mean, they were working, but they were not very effective in the sense that Burmese were not starving. Burma is a resource-rich country. It's got water, it's got food, it's got minerals, it's got oil, it's got gas. So they could survive. But they wanted a way out too of this logjam. And President Thein Sein gave them the way out. So what you're seeing is a calibrated transition to democracy, where the army actually consolidates its power politically as well, because they are in parliament. They control the executive. Of the 32 cabinet ministers, all but 6 are ex-army people. The president, as you know, is a retired general. One of the vice presidents is a retired general. The speaker is a retired general. 25% of serving officers sit in the army. USDP is a party of retired army officers. So they control the executive, they control the legislature, and they also appoint the judiciary. So it's not a Burmese army in retreat which has opened up Burma. It's a confident army which is consolidating its power, protecting its interests, and leading Burma to democracy. This suits the West because this gives them entry. They can now lift sanctions as they've started doing. They can start investing. They can get some influence in a country where they were rapidly losing interest. Influence, I mean.
Right. So, Mr. Bhushan, let me ask you, in your opinion, do you think it was the, sanctions that actually prompted Myanmar to go for that on the path of popular democracy?
I think only partially. I think the change was coming from within. The military realized that its insular policies were making Burma backward. Even countries like Laos and Cambodia had moved ahead. Then I think there was additional pressure from ASEAN because Myanmar is to become the chairman of ASEAN in 2014. They're holding ASEAN Games in 2013. And they lost their turn to chair ASEAN in 2006 because they were told that, you run a repressive government, you reform, and then you can become a chairman. So they didn't want to do anything that would upset ASEAN. So I think ASEAN pressure was there. Domestic pressure. Sanctions, yes, because sanctions affected some sectors tremendously. For example, the textile sector. There were 500 textile factories employing about 50,000 people. 300 of these textile factories had to close down because of sanctions. And sanctions also had a psychological impact. Wherever Burmese went to attend international meets, they were all isolated. They were huddled together. Nobody would talk to them. And year after year, there would be ILO resolutions against them, UN resolutions against them. So I think there were several factors which contributed and not sanctions alone.
Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Bhushan, for joining me here and sharing your thoughts on this issue with us. So clearly, this is a baby step, as we've concluded, and we'll only know in 2015 whether it's been a giant leap, this particular change, what we're seeing in Myanmar towards popular democracy. With that, I'm going to take a short break, but a special report on the mood in Pakistan on the first death anniversary of world's most dreaded terrorist, Osama bin Laden, is coming up next. Welcome back. Syria's persistent bloodshed has tarnished efforts by a UN team of observers to salvage a truce that started to unravel almost as soon as it was supposed to begin on the 12th of April. Human Rights Watch accused President Bashar al-Assad's regime of war crimes during an offensive ahead of the truce, further throwing into doubt his commitment to a peaceful solution to the conflict.
Monday morning, gunmen in a pickup truck fired a rocket-propelled grenade at the central bank of Syria in Damascus. Hours later, 9 people, including Syrian military personnel, were killed and more than 100 wounded in bomb blasts near security service buildings in Idlib.
There is a desire to overthrow the political process adopted by the UN Security Council, friendly and non-friendly states. This escalation is continuing and it has to stop from outside.
The death toll continues to rise in the country despite a shaky UN-backed ceasefire agreement. Syrian security forces stormed student dorms at a university in the northwest after anti-government protests, killing at least 4 students and wounding several others. The apparent violence against students in Aleppo came just hours after Syrian officials in Damascus sat down with Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, to negotiate the terms of the ceasefire in March and early April. Even as UN observers were dispatched to the hotspots across Syria in central Hama, Homs, northern Idlib and southern Dara provinces, the violence continues unabated. Western states do not set much faith in either the ceasefire or reform process. France has called for UN sanctions, but the West can do little, given the diplomatic cover Syria enjoys at the Security Council from China and Russia.
And on the first anniversary of Osama bin Laden's death, US President Barack Obama said that the light of a new day on the horizon was in America's sights after a decade of war. But even as America lauds itself on a well-carried-out raid, the mood is different in Pakistan. Here's a special report.
It's been a year since the world's most wanted terrorist was killed. A year since America proclaimed victory against an old enemy. A victory that was in fact just a little battle won. Exactly a year ago, a team of US Navy SEALs fatally shot Osama bin Laden during a raid on a 3-story compound in Abbottabad in Pakistan. Flying through the hazardous Hindu Kush mountains, American choppers landed inside a compound in Abbottabad near Islamabad and took out the man that they had been hunting for a decade and more. Pakistan was outraged. They claimed their national sovereignty had been violated. US officials retorted by asking how bin Laden could have been hiding in plain sight. But the debate that has stayed alive among the residents of Abbottabad is why the most important piece of evidence from last year's raid, photos of a dead bin Laden, have yet to see the light of day. So what has the killing of Osama bin Laden done for Pakistan? Security analysts say nothing. The raid has done little to improve the security in the country.
It doesn't really mean a big fatal or terminal blow to Al-Qaeda because Osama bin Laden has left behind a legacy which he stood for, he propagated, and in the process he was able to create a lot of local Al-Qaedas, local facilitators, auxiliaries, who are there now without taking the name of Osama bin Laden or Al-Qaeda.
Bin Laden's family was deported to Saudi Arabia last Friday, ending months of speculation about the fate of his 3 widows and 11 children. Once outside Pakistan, the family could reveal details about how the world's most wanted man was able to hide in the country for years. And that revelation could reveal the names of powerful officials of the Pakistani military and spy agency. Will the Pakistani establishment be able to live with that truth?
And in the subcontinent, in recent times, a tentative peace process is underway and ties between Islamabad and New Delhi are at their warmest in years with the recent high-level meetings. This week, former Foreign Minister Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri was on an important visit to India. Here's a report.
Reiterating what Pakistan Army Chief has said just days ago, former Foreign Minister of Pakistan Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri, while on his India visit, said a workable solution for the demilitarization of the Siachen Glacier considered during his tenure, and it was still tenable. Speaking in New Delhi, Kasuri said that terms of mutual disengagement had been worked out in detail.
We had been talking, and roughly we had some sort of a formula worked out in our minds, because there was a fear among some Indians that they wanted a guarantee that once the Indians withdrew, the Pakistanis would not go and occupy those places. So we had worked out terms of disengagement whereby there would be schedules of disengagement, and everybody would know on what particular date where the troops of a particular country were. So there was no question of any grey areas. And I think it was doable. It can still be done.
Kasuri also said that a composite dialogue was in progress that simultaneously sought to address multiple issues of contention, especially Kashmir.
There's a composite dialogue. We worked on the back channel. We are looking at everything simultaneously, including resolution of outstanding issues, especially Kashmir and Siachen and Sir Creek. And there are issues of concern to India, like terrorism and trade. We are looking at everything simultaneously.
Kasuri's remarks come just days after a massive avalanche in the region had claimed the lives of 129 Pakistani soldiers, reviving criticism of the 28-year-old conflict over the glacier, which critics say is futile. The incident had also prompted Pakistan's Army Chief General Ashfaq Kayani to make a rare call for the region's demilitarization.
With that, we take a short break. Later up on the show is world's 10 top restaurants. Stick around to find out. Thanks for staying with us. Let's now take a look at some of the other international news in our next report.
At least 6 people were killed in a suicide car bomb attack in the Afghan capital on Wednesday, hours after US President Barack Obama left Kabul following an unannounced visit during which he signed a strategic partnership agreement. Police chief said that around 6:15 a.m. local time, a suicide bomber blew himself up in front of the military camp, which killed 6 people. The blast on Obama's visit came a year after US Special Forces troops killed Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, the chief architect of the September 11, 2001 attacks, in a raid in neighboring Pakistan. Also this week, President Obama warned US troops of further hardship ahead in Afghanistan as he thanked them for their services after more than a decade of war. Chen Guangcheng pleaded to leave China, saying that a deal struck between the United States and China will fail to protect him and his family. Chinese dissident Chen left the US embassy in Beijing, where he had sought shelter. Xinhua news agency said that he left of his own volition. A US official said Chen had been taken to a medical facility in Beijing. The blind dissident escaped from an hour arrest 6 days ago. The announcement came as US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton arrived in China for high-level annual talks. In the talks, Hillary Clinton has urged China to improve its human rights record, but made no specific mention of the drama over dissident Chen Guangcheng. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich dropped his erratic campaign for the 2012 Republican presidential nomination, but pledged to remain in the public eye as an active citizen. His exit leaves only Ron Paul, an anti-tax and anti-war veteran Texas congressman, officially in the race against presumptive nominee Mitt Romney. The 68-year-old Gingrich, best known for his polarizing turn as the leader of the House of Representatives in the 1990s, enjoyed brief spurts of success after a chaotic start to his presidential campaign. The Islamabad High Court disposed of a petition seeking to declare Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani ineligible, terming it premature. Petitioner G.A. Chaudhry, advocate, pleaded before the court that the Prime Minister stands disqualified after the conviction in a contempt of court case by the Supreme Court and be refrained from performing official duties. Justice Shaukat Siddiqui remarked that Article 63 is about the disqualification of Member Parliament not of the Prime Minister, and the detailed Supreme Court verdict is not available yet. Meanwhile, the Pakistan Muslim League on Wednesday announced that it would launch nationwide protest rallies and later on a long march to oust Gilani from his position.
Now gear up, it's time to bring you up to speed with the weekly action from the world of sports.
Real Madrid fans took to the streets of Spain's capital city on Wednesday after their team clinched their 32nd La Liga title and their first in 4 years. Gonzalo Higuain, Mesut Ozil and Cristiano Ronaldo struck in a frenetic 3-0 win at 10-man Athletic Bilbao to ensure that they would not be overtaken by Barcelona in the last few weeks of the season. With this win, coach Jose Mourinho becomes the first man to win league titles in his native Portugal, England, Italy and Spain. Barcelona coach Pep Guardiola said he felt better that he had officially announced that he was leaving Barcelona. He further added that he had his mind set on the Kings Cup final against Athletic Bilbao on May 25th, as it is the last title he could help Barca win before leaving the Catalan club. Guardiola announced his decision to leave after Barca were knocked out of the Champions League by Chelsea on 3-2 on aggregate in the memorable semi-final on April 24th. The Nou Camp hierarchy has moved quickly to name a successor, Guardiola's assistant coach Tito Vilanova. Roy Hodgson has been appointed England manager on a 4-year contract, ending months of speculation over who would lead the national team to the European Championship in June. The experienced 64-year-old, who had been in charge of Premier League West Bromwich Albion since February last year, became the 13th permanent post-war England manager after succeeding Italian Fabio Capello. Capello left his role as England manager in February, 4 years after taking over from Steve McLaren, despite a successful Euro 2012 qualifying campaign. Norwegian swim champion Alexander Dale Owen died due to a suspected cardiac arrest after collapsing in his bathroom during a training campaign in Flagstaff, Arizona. The president of the Norwegian Swim Federation confirmed the death on Tuesday. In a statement, the federation said the 100-meter breaststroke world champion was found collapsed on the floor of his bathroom late on Monday.
After all that sports action, it's time to sit back and enjoy all the very latest from showbiz. Catch the news about your favorite stars in the entertainment wrap. Superheroes, sequels and reboots are dominating the summer movie-going season as Hollywood unleashes a slew of films featuring epic battles between good and evil, aiming at their primary audience of young males. Summer kicks off with The Avengers, the motherlode of superhero films, which combines popular Marvel characters such as Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor and Captain America, among others, into one film. Sets the tone for another superhero movie that will follow, including The Amazing Spider-Man on the 3rd of July, a reboot starring Andrew Garfield. And the third installment of the Batman franchise, The Dark Knight Rises, on the 20th of July.
What if it doesn't exist anymore? Go. You know you're not supposed to be north of Canal Street.
On 25th of May, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones reprised their roles of alien monitors for the first time in 15 years in Men in Black 3.
Two grown men talking to the wall, wall talking back. It's a mess. World ain't saving itself.
The fighting returns to Man vs. Man in G.I. Joe Retaliation on the 29th of June.
I could have put you in the deepest...
And The Expendables 2 on the 17th of August.
Because I knew that one day would come when you were going to pay me back.
Even women will get in on the action and fighting this season. Kristen Stewart and Charlize Theron battle each other in Snow White and the Huntsman on the 1st of June.
Dear Snow White.
Whoa, whoa, terrified?
Other traditional female offerings still remain, including the ensemble comedy What to Expect When You're Expecting, starring Cameron Diaz and Jennifer Lopez. It's due on the 18th of May.
Yeah, do it that way. No fuss.
I'm looking for sex tips for a straight woman from a gay man.
It's most likely...
The romantic comedy Hope Springs with Meryl Streep on the 10th of August.
That's not me. I just can't do that.
And Rock of Ages, based on the Broadway hit, will boast a decidedly A-list cast including Tom Cruise, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Russell Brand. This will be out on the 15th of June. That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. But this week, as I sign off, I'll leave you with the best of the best restaurants of the world. Organized by Restaurant Magazine, the world's 50 best restaurants list is an annual snapshot of the opinions and experiences of over 800 international restaurant industry experts. What constitutes best is left to the judgment of these trusted and well-traveled gourmets. How about dining at some of the best on your next trip? Goodbye for now. The restaurants of the world's top chefs had to do without them on Monday night as the biggest heavyweights in international cuisine made their annual pilgrimage to the world's 50 Best Restaurants Award. Massimo Bottura's restaurant Osteria Francescana in Modena, Italy was judged 5th best in the world, while the top prize went to Denmark's Noma for the 3rd year in a row. Chef René Zedzepi's Copenhagen restaurant has become famous for its innovative cooking and is credited with putting Nordic cuisine on the map.
This is a new thing, and it gives us confidence. There's a whole generation of chefs who just gets a confidence boost, and it's just amazing to be part of that. Yeah. And this adds to the momentum that's happening.
The world's 50 best restaurants list are as follows.